The microfinance industry involves the provision of financial services to poor low-income households and micro-enterprises. These services include small loans and other facilities like savings, insurance and money transfer services. With about 80% of Ghanaians unbanked, the sector is perceived as a financially sustainable instrument through which a significant number of people outside the banking sector will be reached. The informal sector particularly embraced microfinance systems which started off with susu operations. These susu operations had people saving with them and taking small loans from individuals and groups within the context of self-help to start businesses or farming ventures. Financial institutions into microfinance, investments, savings and loans have become more relevant to the informal sector, of which most are unable to access financial services because of the lack of strong retailing financial intermediaries. Access to credit remains imperative for the development of the informal sector and also helps to mop up excess liquidity through savings that can be made available as investment capital for national development. The Bank of Ghana, with this knowledge, provided regulations to guide the operations of microfinance companies. Although these microfinance institutions are able to meet the central bank's requirements at the initial stages, sustaining their financial dealings with clients remains a challenge. A number of them are unable to pay back the returns of investments made by their clients. The microfinance industry, made up of investment companies, savings and loans and what have you, have really come to stay. You see a lot of these companies springing up. There are benefits, some people argue, but others say it is a medium for some unscrupulous being to dupe others. Now, I have with me some gentlemen who have their monies locked up with some investment company, and they would be telling me about their experience. Now, they want to remain anonymous for security reasons, so they'll be telling us what exactly happened, how they entered into the investment, and what is happening now. So tell me, first of all, what took you into this particular investment package?
Actually, I heard of the ad on radio, right? And then I did my inquiries and I realized it had good promise, and so I thought of it, and then I put in 16,000 as investment for a year, and after which I'd get my profit and then the initial capital, and that's why I went to it with a US group of companies.
Wow. So when you entered into it, what were the agreements and how were they breached?
Actually, the agreement is that monthly there will be an interest of 10% monthly, and that's for a year, right? But the interest will be given after 6 months. So it means that after 6 months I could get 60% interest, and then if I liked, I could keep that interest with them and roll it over for another 6 months, and then by the end of the year all the cash will be given to me. But I opted for taking the interest out after 6 months, and then that same initial capital will still be there, rolled, and then it will be getting interest for another 6 months, after which I'd get the interest and then the initial capital. And so that's the whole idea of the investment.
So how long did you do this investment?
I invested by August. In August, it should have 6 months expired in August, right? And so February will be a year since I invested. And so when it got to August, I went to them for my 6 months interest, only to be given a check which I put into my account only for it to bounce. And then they sent me text messages that I should hold on and resubmit the check at a different date, which has still not worked out. And so that's where I find myself now.
How much are we talking about?
We are talking about 16,000 Ghana cedis.
That they have to give you?
16,000 is the initial cash I put in. So after 6 months, the first profit is 9,006, which I should have gone for, which bounced. So the first 6 months is 9,006, which I have not been able to lay hands on now. And so I still have my 16,000 with them in the first tranche of 9,006, which is an interest which I have not gotten yet. And so it sums up to 16,000, the initial cash, plus the 9,006, which should have been the interest for the first 6 months. And so that money is still with them, and that was due in August. And so till November, we have about 3 more months in addition, and it's still counting. I've not gotten anything.
Now, what have they been telling you?
Actually, aside the text message that I got after, initially I sent the check, and then the check bounced. So it's after that I had to go to the office and tell them that the check didn't go through. And they were like, they are sorry, and so they gave me a date. That's 2 months after that I should submit again, and it will go through. So that should have matured on the 30th of October. So that time, 30th of October came, I called them to be sure I wasn't going to put the check in for it to bounce again, only for them to tell me now that I shouldn't send it, and that they'll communicate to me a different date. Right? And ever since, I've not heard anything from them. They don't call, nothing. And I took it upon myself, went to their headquarters. That's about 2 weeks back. Got there, and it was totally nothing. I wasn't hearing anything until I was given one guy who was so rude and even threatened driving me out of their premise with their security. And so that is it. And he was only saying that their lawyers have written letters which should come to me, so I should sit home and expect a letter, and that's all.
Before I come to what you are doing now, let me find out from your other colleague how he decided to enter this particular investment.
Yes, I saw the ad in the newspaper, and then I also did some inquiries as well. But then I invested, I think, a month after my friend did. So I got an interest rate of 8% a month for a period of 6 months. So I invested an initial capital of 5,000, hoping that after 6 months, an interest of 2,400 Ghana cedis would add up to 5,000, making 7,400. But it was supposed to mature in September, 18th September. I haven't heard anything from them. No form of communication whatsoever, unlike my other colleague.
How did you try to take your monies like your other colleague? He tried, and then the check bounced.
No, I didn't receive any check at all from them. I haven't received anything from them at all. And I haven't heard anything at all from them.
But have you tried to communicate with them?
Yes, I went over to the branch where I did the investment, and then they didn't seem to give me any useful information. So I had to they referred me to the headquarters, which is at Nungwa. And then the day I went there, I equally saw even more frustrated people there. Yes, hundreds of them actually. And then no one seemed to tell us anything, because I don't know. No one seemed to have any credible information to tell us. So that's where we are now.
But when you were going into this particular investment, did you do your checks? Did you go through proper, registration? Did someone lead you? And what has happened to that person who did that?
Well, nobody actually led me. As I said, I saw the ad in the newspaper, and then it's everywhere on the airwaves. So I thought, well, once they were able to do that, then they might be credible. So I decided to invest with them.
You have documents and everything which shows that you have given them some monies?
Yes, I have my certificate. I have my receipts and everything here, which shows my investment.
And after all this, they are not telling you anything.
They are not telling me anything, and that's the what do I say? That's the most difficult part, actually, because if there are difficulties, I think the best way is to communicate with your investors, tell them what's going on. But then this is where we don't hear anything from them, and it makes us very, very agitated.
How long have you been doing this investment?
Yes, I invested in March, so 6 months was supposed to mature in September, and from September to now, we haven't heard anything from them.
In the process of doing the investment, were you hearing from them? Was there any form of communication?
No, the initial communication was you submit your certificate, I think 2 weeks prior to your date of maturity, and that's what I did. So I submitted on the 1st of September because it was supposed to mature on the 18th. So I submitted it. They took the original certificate, gave me a photocopy, and then to the branch I did the investment. Yes, and then they said, well, they were going to do the processing, but then after that I haven't heard anything from them.
So you have no idea if it was processed or what have you?
No, actually I followed up and they said it was processed, and that initially I went over to the offices and then they said, well, there was a slight delay, it will come. But then after that, I haven't heard anything from them.
So you have not taken a penny out of the monies that you invested?
I haven't taken a dime.
Okay, let me ask your other colleague. After going through this deal, what measures are you taking to get your monies back?
Well, currently I've spoken with my lawyer, and my lawyer sent a letter to them. And to the best of my knowledge, it's not been acknowledged. They've not responded, nothing. It's just like that. And so my lawyer was actually asking whether they had really received the letter, which I confirmed. I got back to my branch, where I did the investment, where I actually gave the letter to, and they confirmed that their manager and the head office had received. And so gave me his contact. A gentleman called Albert. I called him, he confirmed that he had received it. And then promised me that they'll sort things out, but till date I don't hear from him. I call him, he doesn't pick his call again, and that is where I am now. Sure.
Now, to what extent would you go to get your monies back?
Sure. For now, I think the contracts they give me is a legal document, right? And so the best way is to tackle it from the legal point of view, and my lawyer makes me understand that he's going to serve them another notice, and then if he doesn't hear from them, then we'll move on to sue them. And so that's what that's the process in which I am now, and then I'm sure hopefully in a few weeks I should sue them. And so that's it.
Okay, now let me come to you. What are you doing to get your monies back? Are you also planning to sue them?
Yes, obviously, because as my colleague said, it's a legal document, it's binding. So I would inform my lawyer about it, and then we'll see the way forward.
Now, tell me, with all this happening, what is your perception about the microfinance industry, savings and loans, these companies that are coming up, aside their mainstream banks?
I think the rate at which they are springing up really tells us something. I don't think most of these guys are in to help us. Going forward, I think our regulators should also help us, because I don't know how come these guys get licenses to operate in the first place, if there are any stringent procedures they go through or not. Because the rate at which they're coming up and the rate at which people are investing, I actually heard of stories where, with my case, people had to go and borrow to come and invest just because of the massive interest rates. Yes, so it's a big worry, and I wouldn't really advise to really invest in any of these upcoming microfinance issues after what I've gone through.
Even after doing all your checks and realizing that they've gone through all the necessary procedures?
It's still risky for me. Anything with a big interest comes with big risks. So if you are willing to, then why not? But I wouldn't advise.
But you knew this particular risk, but you went into it.
Yes, I did.
Are you regretting your action?
Yes, I am. Seriously, I've regretted my actions. Well, my advice is to do proper checks. I mean proper checks before you invest in any of these institutions around. If you're not really sure, I think the treasury bills from our commercial banks will be the safest if you really want to do any investment. Yeah.
Let me come to you. Tell us your perception about these companies that are coming up. Would you advise anybody at all to go into it?
Actually, it's risky to go into this, and what makes it even more risky is that you do your checks and you ask for certificates and every other thing to show that they are licensed, and they've got it all, which means that they've gone through the right channel to be certified. And so that makes you have the confidence that yes, you are dealing with something credible. And in my case, I didn't really, although the risk was there, I didn't really feel so scared in going in, because I know the tilapia business fetches, because I've done similar projects with my colleagues and we've really had good profit from them. And so it was something which was real to me. It was something which could easily be achieved, and that's the more reason why I went to it. And so no matter how the checks and stuff that we do, I'm still certain that these people can still go around, show themselves as so credible and still dupe people. You get it? Because everything that they promise might look so high, but if you've been in a business before, you know that it's easily achievable, and so it's not so much of a risk that you might not want to go into. And so that's what I'm seeing, and I think our regulators should be more up and doing and then check, because one thing that even beats my imagination is to have these people make adverts throughout all the major radio stations, the credible stations, and nobody clamps them down until people are found victims. And even till now, I don't hear authorities coming in to clamp people down. And you go there and they have police guarding their premises and driving us away. And I don't know whether it's a conspiracy or something, but maybe we need some people to explain things to us. So for me, I'd advise that if it comes to investments in Ghana now, I won't advise any microfinance institution anybody to go to the microfinance institutions, because it's risky. No matter how you look at it, it's risky.
Now, clearly, these two gentlemen have totally lost trust in the microfinance industry, and the two stories we have heard is just out of the 1,000 stories out there. A lot of people have had their monies locked up with these institutions, and so we ask our regulators, what exactly are they doing to these institutions to ensure that the monies that they collect from their clients are really saved and used for the purposes for which they were taking, and of course giving back to their clients the rates, the monies or the investments that they really deserve. In front of the U.S. group of companies, the company that has a microfinance as a subsidiary and has a lot of clients who have their monies locked up in there. I'll be going in to find out what has happened to those monies and how they intend to pay back.
I know you are here because few of our clients are agitating and it's a concern to you. Basically, that's why you are here. The fact is that we have over 4,000 as a clientele base thereabout. I paid about 2,300 thereabout. Started paying from January, in February, March, April, May, June. Then somewhere mid-June, I halted payment. Why? Because I'll give you a case study. People who have invested 13,000, for instance, within a year are supposed to make about 30,000 from me. It is obvious I was selling the fish at the farm gate at the wholesale price. People can buy and go and sell. Then the people who are now the middlemen are making money at the expense of my client and the company because of the wholesale package. So ideally, the best for me to do is also to venture into the retail market. So I halted the payment because we're not making money at the wholesale. Put up in cold vans and cold stores across the country, and we are not into retail marketing, and we are paying our clients out of the retail. What we do is that we have the expertise, the time, and the technical know-how to go into the tilapia farming. We've been doing that on our own as a business for a while. They wanted to expand. So individuals who have the money but do not have the time and expertise to venture into the farming, we do the farming on their behalf. It is US Farming Project, a subsidiary, and what we do is that we farm on behalf of individuals who have interest in venturing into the tilapia farm but do not have the time and then the expertise to do that. So it is not an investment as they always call it, US investment. No, it is a farming project. We are only farming on their behalf. How it works is that you have your money in your forest tank, but you don't have what it takes to venture into tilapia farming. You give me the money, I farm on your behalf. Within a year, I harvest, sell, and make the proceed available to you. We call all our investors. We hold investors forum across the country. We even wrote, letters from our our lawyers indicating our readiness and the days and time that we're going to pay them. Every single individual who invested with us is well communicated to. And our offices across the country is open 24th every day. If you go to my office at 8 p.m. because of the issue we have, people are there to attend to a client. You realize that we have customers doing their day-to-day activity with us. If you go out there, you see a lot of customers there on daily basis and across the country. Now I chase people out. Are those policemen, real policemen that they will just chase customers out? It is not true. It has never happened. Not in US Group companies. We can't chase our customers away. We need them.
So now you started paying them?
We've been paying. I have a lot of evidence I can make available to you. I did mention to you, I have paid over 2,300 of my clients whose investment are due. We are paying people based on their maturity. If your investment is mature, say in August, I have to pay before I pay someone whose investment matured in where? In September. Obviously, yes, there was a delay. I did mention earlier that somewhere mid-June, realizing that we were not making money, I halted payment for some few weeks to reorganize myself, and now we are paying.
Obviously, the communication chain, there was a break somewhere, because some of your clients we have spoken to did not hear from you when you halted.
It's not true. I can tell you for a fact.
So they are lying.
I can tell you for a fact because I used 3 approaches communicating to them. We gave them phone calls, we sent out bulk text messages, we even wrote letters from our lawyers to them. So I am surprised. That, well, you see, obviously, people's money at stake. Sometimes it's not about explanation. They need their money there and there. So you can even talk to them. But I mean, personally, they go to some of my branches, speak to my branch heads. Then they say, look, I went there and I've not spoken to anybody. Then you call them and say, have you spoken to Mr. A or Mr. B? Sometimes you expect some of these things to happen in dealing with.
But how soon are they going to get their money?
Very soon, I can tell you, very soon. And when I say very soon, I'm not expecting this to trade for more than 1 month, because on daily basis I pay people, and I'm expecting that before they close, a month from now, we should be able to pay chunk of them. Because you see, on daily basis, as people's fishes are being ready for. So on daily basis, you get people getting to their maturity date. It is a growing concern business. It's not like the whole business is on a standstill. On daily basis, I can't tell you tomorrow or tomorrow next. We are in business. We are still doing business. We don't intend folding out now because there's a deficit when it comes to fish. We import fish from the other part of the world to Ghana. What it means is that people need fish. So since people need fish, I'll still be in business. And if I'm in business and people feel they want to farm, they want to venture into the business, why not? I'm in business and I'm doing genuine business. I'll keep doing it until I think people are no more interested in eating fish. Then I feel since there is a demand for fish, I'll keep on farming. I'll be glad if you can go through this. Go through this. These are all payments I have made, to people. These are, payments I have made to people. It is true. One or two, a few checks bounced. I can tell you estimated number of checks that went bad, and I mean there's nothing new about it. Sometimes in business, all these things, happened. But the large number of shares given out went through, and the evidence are here for all of us to see. These are payment vouchers, and have more here. If time will permit you, I'll let you go through. As to speak now, there are people taking their investment returns. As to speak now, down there. I did mention a few of my checks went bad. I can tell you, a few checks went bad. You can just have, come, we'll go through. These are payment I have made to people, and there is more. If you want to see more, these are all clients that we've been paying. There is more. You can go through. You can take your time, just go through and see whether we are actually paying or we are not paying. Is that we cannot pay everybody on the same day. First come, first serve. Well, in dealing with people, you don't expect everybody to do the right thing. So one or two miscommunication might be there. But I can tell you, I'm like 90% thereabout. I'm well spoken to all our clients.
Okay,
yes.
Let's round up this conversation.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now? There are people out there agitated over, your miscommunication somewhat.
Yes.
What are you going to do to save your face?
Yes. Let me seize this opportunity to inform all our lawyer clients that, look, all our offices are opened. We are there because of them. Anytime they have a concern, a challenge, they should come to us. We are here to address their concerns. Our doors are open. No, you can see the business is active. Look, we have a lot of business operating under the umbrella. The US Farming Project is just an aspect of it. And we don't foresee us going down. Do we like a company who can go bankrupt? No. We are in business and we'll continue to be in business. The word bankrupt is not in our dictionary. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
see, here's the paymaster's office. Her job is that she pays all our clients. Her name is Gloria. And on a daily basis, as you can see, these are payment vouchers she has made for the day. And she's then running copy, to send our public authorities. So this is an evidence that on a daily basis we are paying. You can see to the tune, paid about 46,000.
Okay. So, madam, how many people have you paid today?
Okay. Yeah. Give me some of the recent payment you made.
The one you did today.
The vouchers you paid today. Okay, so these are students you made today. You see, it has, and this is the principal and interest. It's been paid. You can see. And these are students you made.
3,200, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can see we are paying on daily basis. And a few people just walk out of the office.
Please come in. Are you coming?
No. A few minutes ago. So it's obvious. You can see that we are paying our clients. So please, if we have clients out there who have concern, they should just come. If we have concern, our officers are waiting. They are here. They should come.
They are not ready.
They should just come. Why not? We are here. We attend to them.
That's what they do.
We attend to them. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You can see the place is not closed, the place is open, they are actively, busily working, so there is no problem. Some we don't have a certificate. I mean, get it. Get it. Get it. Get it. We are duly registered. We are duly registered. So you can take this one.
And it's a legal institute. You are legal institute.
Take this one for sure. Is that okay?
From EPA.
Yeah. And you're right.
And the other one?
Yeah, and that's the Ghana Revenue.
These are VAT.
They have to
and you know what the way this is done, pay tax and corporate tax.
And also, when the farm is, this is their mind, they are certificate.
DG Capital also had its share of the financial challenge.
Wahasi, best 3 months, they mean G 1 CD. And then me babejinu, and no, me betna had the whole day. Ya mami kobo, and then sumaba, almost next week Friday. Ye dosun, ye blue 30 na ye guase, ye ji yesika. Into ya pamucho mumboye. Obi mumboye ya pamucho.
Ye fisa susuna se atiaka. Oh, na be 1 month ni. Be ko 2 months ye kwa. Amu person mo discard mai. Amu de ochira. Na me se bu ayi lapa junction so abeka junction wo side oh na esa bank we na oh na ne ekwe no lock ene ko na yin no wo kan lock no ana wo se yemre ekwete se me jeska ye pa nso a Wait to two. Fine.
The issue is initially because of competition now in this microfinance industry. When we started having these problems with our software, we tried serving them manually. But upon a second thought, we realized after we've been able to resolve the problem, the issue with the software, we would have another problem to contend with. So some clients were impatient. Yesterday at the Tesano branch, and they started vandalizing the place. So we had to call in the police. So it's actually the police that advised that we close down the place to be able to resolve the situation, and then we can start serving our clients. For some time now, we're having some few challenges with the software that we're using. So we've been able to assure our clients that they should give us up to next week Friday for us to resolve the problem at hand.
Simple.
Some months after the incident, I visited the premises of DG Capital and only met it locked. A client who had come to check on the company as well told me off camera that he invested about 3,600 cedis in the company. He received just 200 cedis out of the money, and the remaining is yet to be paid to him. DG Capital is one of the microfinance companies that has folded up because of financial difficulties. Now, officials a month ago gave their clients about a month to pay up their monies, but their time is getting close and they have not heard anything from them, I have been told. Now, I tried to get to officials, particularly the Chief Executive Officer, but it has proven futile. This is just one out of many collapsed microfinance and investment companies. So with all the hullabaloo surrounding the microfinance industry, I'm here at the Ghana Association of Microfinance Companies to know exactly what they are doing, how they are addressing the lurking problems, and of course the challenges that the industry is facing, how they are addressing those challenges. I'll be speaking with the Executive Secretary of the association shortly. So tell me what exactly you do as an association.
Ghana Association of Microfinance Company is an umbrella body for second-tier microfinance institutions in Ghana. When I say second-tier, 2 years ago, the Central Bank of Ghana decided to regulate activities of microfinance companies in Ghana. So per the regulation, all the microfinance institutions were categorized into 4 major tiers. We have the first tier, the second tier, the third tier, and the fourth tier. The first tier comprised of the rural banks and the savings and loans companies. The second tier are the Susu companies, that is Susu that have grown into a mini savings and loans company, that's the Susu companies or microfinance companies. The third tier is the money lenders and the financial NGOs. The fourth tier is the enterprises or individuals who collect Susu and also do money lending. So we represent the second tier, popularly known as the Susun companies, previously called the financial services, and per the regulation we were mandated to use the name microfinance in our legal names. So you have X microfinance, Y microfinance company. We have a total membership of 630 microfinance companies across the 10 regions of Ghana. We are an association that represents our members. We speak on behalf of our members. We support our members in capacity building activities. We support the central bank in regulating the activities of the microfinance institutions. And we also advocate for the microfinance institutions for sound environmental policies and also regulation.
The microfinance industry, has a lot of issues, a lot of problems are coming up. Is there a particular challenge that you are facing, and how exactly are you dealing with this challenge?
Yes, I must admit that we are faced with a number of challenges, and notably among these challenges we have one, capacity. The regulation, as I said, is still new in Ghana, and we have when you look globally, Ghana's microfinance sector has a special model compared to other countries. Other countries, when they talk about microfinance, they are big banks, just like our universal banks and so on. But in Ghana, the central bank has given room for the microfinance to go down to deal with the informal sector. One of the challenges that we faced when the regulation came is capacity to meet the regulatory requirements. The regulation came with a lot of activities and what the Bank of Ghana expects the microfinance institutions to be doing. They realized that previously we were operating without no law, we're just doing things on our own. And now a law has come. We all have to conform to certain trend. We all have to build up certain capacities. We all need to formalize our activities, do certain things that we were previously not doing. And this called for capacity gaps to be filled. And looking at the nature of our businesses, most of the microfinance institutions could not recruit the caliber of staff that they needed in trying to meet the regulatory requirements. Some have been able to meet, and others are still struggling below the line. They're trying to meet the regulatory requirement. Secondly was also the issue of the capital. Previously, MFIs were operating without capital. The regulation came in to give a clear lines on the paid-up capital that you need to build up. It was a challenge, but now most of the MFIs have been able to build their own capital, falling on equity and also on debt to finance their activities. But we still have a challenge of trying to track the unregulated microfinance institutions in Ghana. Every corner you go, people get up and set up a microfinance business. It's just like when we found ourselves, when the communication business came into Ghana, people perceive the business will be so prospective, and they go into it, and later on they realize that it's not what they thought, and they just back up. Microfinance cannot be handled that way. This is a challenge that we face as an association. In terms of capacity, we are playing key role as an association to support in building capacity of our member companies through training, through guidelines, through orientation. In terms of training, the Ministry of Finance have made available some subsidy, which provides a 70% subsidy support to microfinance institutions that are interested in training their staff. So this has brought down the cost of training to the barest minimum, which almost all MFIs can afford. The Ministry of Finance also supports the association in terms of equipping us to be proactive in whatever we do. The central bank also plays its part by trying to support us in regulating the industries, by trying to help the association build the capacities of their members through guidelines and where we can do right, where we cannot do, and also what kind of the advice that we need to give to our members. So we've been working along that line as an association. The other things we do is also to monitor the activities of our members in compliance with the regulation. We don't have a mandate to supervise. It's a central bank's mandate. It's within their jurisdiction to supervise the activities of all financial institutions. So what we do is we do field visits and monitor activities and give feedback to the central bank, upon which they go back to the field and do the detailed work. In terms of ensuring that members do the right thing, we've trained our members in terms of liquidity management. Realized that it was a big issue. Most of the practitioners didn't have that skill in trying to manage the liquidity and also the savings they get and the loans they give out there. So this resulted in a number of the microfinance companies in distress, unable to pay depositors' fund because they didn't have a very good liquidity management structure in place. So we provide that support to our members. We provide governance training. technical and non-technical trainings to our members to equip them so that they can understand the microfinance business model and also meet the demands of the client as they look at tackling the objective of the triple bottom line approach, being profitable, meeting the needs of the vulnerable, the poor, helping eradicate poverty, and also trying to promote the environment that we work in.
Well, we realize that there are a lot of microfinance companies folding up. We've had a lot of issues about some of them running away with depositors' funds. As an association, do you have the mandate at all, to sanction some of these companies? What exactly do you do to companies that take away depositors' funds? Do you have any measures in place to deal with such companies?
Exactly. Unfortunately, as an association, we do not have anything like a deposit insurance fund in place where when clients lose their money, we step in to pay the monies of the clients. We don't have that. We're thinking through that line, and we're still speaking with government if a fund could be made available so that we create an endowment fund or an insurance fund where MFIs, a portion of their monies can be stored in there so that in the event that we have a collapse, then the insurance can cover that. But as I speak with you, we don't have that fund readily available now. We haven't set up that fund. It's something that we started thinking of. That was last year, first quarter of last year, 2012, because we realized that the regulation was bringing about a lot of turbulence within the system, because we saw a lot of the bad notes winding up the activity because they could not meet the regulatory requirement. We also saw some good MFIs who were smaller in nature, who could not also meet the regulatory requirement, also folding up their activities. So this gave us an idea for the need to set up a deposit security fund where members themselves will contribute into the fund in times that they have good, someone say in times when things are good, so that in times when we go through difficulties or turbulence moments, the peak season, members can fall on their reserves and also pay their depositors. Aside the mandatory reserve by the central bank. We know the central bank mandates that 30% of your deposit liability will have to be kept in both primary and secondary reserve. So that is being complied by the regulated institutions. But we are looking beyond the 30. MFIs themselves willingly will also build up a reserve so that in times of difficulties they can fall on the reserve and also fall on the mandatory reserve to resolve issues of crisis. So we went ahead, came out with a document, a clear guidelines as to how the fund could be managed and how members will contribute, how much each member is expected to contribute into the fund. We came out with a committee was set up to look into that. The committee came out with a report. We shared with members. Members agreed that we should start, but we're still contemplating when we start and how the modalities and so on. So it's still pending because the time we wanted to take off January this year, but that was a time almost all the companies were having difficult moment because of the Christmas festivity. Withdrawals went very high, so a lot of them have to fall on their reserves already, so which made it very difficult for them to save again. Then after the first quarter, we were hit by crisis within the sector when some companies were folding up or some were in distress. It put a lot of pressure on even the good ones, so it distorted a lot of the liquidity management structure. Savings was not coming in. People withdrawal going up and up and up. So we're really restricted. Things have gone down now. So we hope that early next year we'll operationalize the deposit security fund. It's clear within our code of conduct as an association. If we have a component on consumer protection or client protection, which is there, which category states that we have to treat our client fairly. So any unfair treatment on the part of the client by the MFI applies or attract a sanction. So what we do is that if any of our member companies is indulging this practice where they take depositors' funds and run away, what we do is to work closely with the regulator. We cannot voice out the punitive measures that we put in place, or we ensure that they go back and pay depositors' money, working closely with the central bank. So what we do is to provide the necessary information on ground to the regulator, and the regulator ensures that the owners of the companies get funds to pay off depositors' funds. So what we do is that we apply sanction as an association, but our sanction is also limited. It cannot enforce the payment of depositors' funds, but it's to ensure that we apply. In times like that, we don't apply penalty, but it's to suspend the member and also investigate the member and support the member also fulfill its commitment or obligation to the general public or depositors. Our mandate is also limited as to what we can do. In terms of ensuring that we collect depositors' funds, we don't have that mandate as an association. And that falls within the jurisdiction of the central bank. The central bank's mandate is to protect depositors through regulation. And through the regulation, there is a component that restricts the microfinance institutions to create what we call reserves, statutory reserve, both primary reserve and secondary reserve, so that in the event that they go through a distressed nature, they can fall on the reserve to meet the depositors. But as I said, regulation is still young. We've learned our lessons from the experiences that we've gone through. The central bank is working very hard to ensure that going forward, we wouldn't have these issues of this MFI has collapsed, this has run away with depositors' funds. Regulation, whenever it's been introduced, will shake up the system. The bad notes will be sieved out of the system, and the good ones will stand the test of time. So it's something that we all bear with the depositors. It's painful when you lose your lifetime savings and so on, but we're working very hard with the regulator to ensure that we clean up the system.